Yes, I'm a Nolan fanboy. It's okay. We all know I am, but I'm sure many of you guys are as well. And with Tenet dropping into theaters this week, we now have 11 Nolan films to talk about from worst to best. But in particular, this is more of the best to better category. We're all going to have different rankings on Christopher Nolan, but in fact, that is what makes this list and comment section so fascinating. So make sure to leave a comment down below. What is your favorite Christopher Nolan film? What is your ranking of all 11 films of his? As well as hitting that like and subscribe button if you guys enjoy talking movies or in general just love early movie reviews, reactions, and rankings. I do all of these on a daily basis, and I want to keep talking movies with you guys, so make sure to hit that like and subscribe button, comment down below, and understand I'm going to have a vastly different Nolan ranking than you, but still, let's jump right into this ranking right now. Down to my number 11 is going to be following Nolan's very first film, a very low-budget independent film, in fact, and one that truly showcased his heights and, of course, his talents as a director, because the direction in here is excellent. The script, great, and the performances in here, awesome. But nonetheless, the thing that truly holds this film back from being any higher on this list is just because of how low budget this film is, and you can truly see it from the craftsmanship, and you can tell that this film was made for definitely less than $50,000. I'd be shocked if it was made for any more than that. But nonetheless, this is a film that will inspire future filmmakers today, and truly, if you were someone that would watch this film for the first time, you're like, this guy's gonna go somewhere, and surely enough, we see that with the next few films that he directed. And my number 10 is going to be a shock to many of you guys, but it is Memento. I know this might be some of your guys' most favorite Nolan film ever, but for me, it's still a fascinating and excellent movie. But when I come back through the rewatches, this is the movie I just don't care to go back into. In fact, it has an intriguing concept and story of a man just trying to find out who killed his wife, but in fact, he has short-term memory loss, so he has to take pictures, tattoo himself, and follow this mystery. And in general, this is a very convoluted and confusing film, one that really is a puzzle that once solved feels just fascinating in its own right, and one that truly takes you back into such a unique capability. And I love Memento for that, but again, it's a film that I don't care to rewatch. It's one that I just really, after 2 or 3 times of watching it, I get the hype, I get what it's all about, and I get why so many people beloved this film to death, but I think the hype had hit me a little bit too early when I finally watched this film, and while I still contend that this film is fascinating, it's great, when I go back through my Nolan rewatches, this is the one that I always put off the longest. And again, like I said, I love going through these Nolan movies because I love almost each and every one of them and have a blast with each and every one of them. So just throwing this down at number 10, I would still give this film like a 4 out of 5. It is excellent nonetheless. And coming at my number 9 is going to be Insomnia, which goddamn, this film is so underrated when people think about Nolan's filmography. I love Insomnia. In fact, I'd give this film like a 4.5 out of 5, and everything going above would pretty much be that or a 5 out of 5. Insomnia is a mystery drama crime thriller that stars the likes of Al Pacino, Hilary Swank, and Robin Williams, and each and every one of them giving such a great performance, especially Al Pacino. We haven't seen him like this. He has his famous yell. Of course, Robin Williams is very different in this, especially from the performances that we had seen from him around this time. Insomnia really proves, again, just provided that extra coverage of why Robin Williams is one of the best actors that has ever worked in Hollywood. And Hilary Swank, I loved her in this film, and in fact, I'm not a giant Hilary Swank fan. I think she's very overrated as an actress. There's something about her that just never comes off right, but I loved her in Insomnia, and I love Nolan's direction in here. I love the writing, and again, I love how he shoots this film and how the film looks and the eerie looks, the fog of the town, and the mysterious of how this town feels due to the fact the film never goes to nighttime. It's always sun most of the day there, and it adds to that insomnia feel, and truly will even make you, after watching the film, not be able to sleep. Can I just get like a Nolan straight up horror film, because a lot of these films have horror tendencies and I think he would just kill it. Coming in at my number 8 is going to be Dunkirk. I loved Dunkirk. I love it, I love it, I love it, but it's one of the films that, again, on rewatchability, this is one of the ones that I kind of put off a little bit too much. It is an intense film that consistently keeps you on the edge of your seat from the very first frame to the last one. You feel like you are with these guys, and the intersecting timelines between the different time periods are excellent in the way that Nolan is able to craft it. This is why I think this is one of his best directed films yet, and in fact, as this film was coming out, I said this is Nolan's best crafted and directed film yet, because even though it is not character driven, and I understand that is not the point of the film, even though I wish it kind of was for certain character moments, I love Dunkirk because, again, that ticking time clock, the Hans Zimmer score in here, and again, the intensity ramps up within each and every moment. That unsettling feeling in your stomach is there the whole entire time you were watching it because you truly don't know what is going to happen next. And in general, it truly makes you feel like you are in war. Nolan crafted one of the best war epics of all time, and Dunkirk will go down as just that. And coming down at my number 7, now this one is higher for me because I just adore this film. I love how zany and crazy, and again, how epic in scale this film goes, and that is The Dark Knight Rises, the conclusion to the whole Dark Knight trilogy, and I adore this film. It has an excellent ending, and in fact has great performances from every single person involved, and as an ending to an overall trilogy, I think it was just fascinating in the way that Nolan was able to craft this film. The action set pieces are grand in scale, and even though I do think the film is a little bit too long, and Bane definitely goes out like a pussy in this, what they did with the Batman character in The Dark Knight Rises is absolutely fascinating. I love Christian Bale's performance in here. I love Tom Hardy as Bane. And even though you can't understand him sometimes, it is okay nonetheless because he is such a great menacing character to go up against the Batman in this film. And Anne Hathaway as Catwoman steals my heart. She's great in here, and I love where they took her character as well. So many twists and turns throughout here, but again, this film just feels perfect in the manner that they were going with this character of Bruce Wayne. Coming at my number 6 is truly the Nolan film that no one speaks about, and that is The Prestige, a complex, dynamic, driven film that is about the likes of jealousy between two magicians who are trying to beat out one another. It is such an excellently crafted movie that every single time I watch it, I pick up on something more and more. And the twist at the end of this film is absolutely fantastic and one of the best twists of all time. Christian Bale, Hugh Jackman do such a great job in here. Scarlett Johansson steals the show, and David Bowie is just great addition to the whole cast. A movie that not enough people talk about because as the movie's consistently going, it is ramping up the intensity of these jaw-defining magical tricks that are going on in front of you. Finally start figuring out the mystery. It makes you want to dive back into the film and go back through it all and pick and choose the little clues that are left behind from Nolan's excellently crafted movie. Tellings of the obsession between jealousy and competition are so powerful in here, and again, passionately coming through Nolan's vision. Before I get to my top 5, guys, make sure to comment down below and let me know your guys' thoughts once again. What is your ranking on the Nolan films? I'm so curious to hear your guys' thoughts. As well, if you guys are curious on more in-depth thoughts on my Tenet review, which later on in this ranking you're going to see where it gets placed, go check out the card above. I just did a full non-spoiler review of that film, as well as head on over to Samsung Films on how to see films early. And of course, it's a big thing to you and a big thing to my Patreon supporters, because without you, I wouldn't be able to do this. And at my number 5 is going to be Batman Begins. I adore this film to pieces. This is actually, like, if I were to do a standalone Batman ranking, this might be my favorite Batman film of all time. I'm a sucker for origin stories, and Christian Bale's descent, and again, ascent going into Christian Bale's Bruce Wayne is absolutely phenomenal. I love his performance as Bruce Wayne, but I also just love him as Batman in this film. And I love seeing how Batman is filmed in here. While I do think the action scenes do not hold up at all in this film, it's the intrigue of the villains and the heroes in this. We have Scarecrow, we have Ra's al Ghul, and again, we have Batman himself still trying to find a place in this world and what is his purpose inside this world to Gotham City. It is absolutely brilliantly laid out and a great setup for what is to come within this trilogy. Again, I adore every single one of the Dark Knight films. It Begins is the one that set it off on its course, and I love what Nolan was able to craft in this film, especially coming off like Batman and Robin. This is the film that we needed at the time, and I still think to this day it might be the best Batman film yet. And coming at my number 4, I haven't spoken about the film yet, but it is The Dark Knight. And now, while I still contend that Batman Begins is my favorite Batman film, I think The Dark Knight is more than just a Batman film. It is one of the best crime thrillers of all time. It is one that descends you, that doesn't even feel like a DC or comic book film whatsoever. It is a film that is completely about the insanity and anarchy about one man who's terrorizing one city, and that is through Heath Ledger's performance as the Joker. I contend that this is one of the best performances of all time. I think Heath Ledger destroys this role, and it is such a rewatchable movie that you could sit down and rewatch this any other day. The opening prologue scene is absolutely insanity, but one of my favorite opening scenes to an entire film, and I think Nolan just knows how to hook your audience and totally bring you about into this film. What he did with The Dark Knight will traverse time and space, in general filmmaking for the rest of our lives, and any film going above of this, I think we will truly see that. Nolan wants to play around with your mind, and what he does in this film, showing the different character arcs and the character moments that go in redefining certain characters, whether it's, again, Joker, Two-Face, Batman, and all the supporting cast in here. The Dark Knight lives up to all of that, and I love this film. And even though, again, I've never seen this film in theaters, it's actually one of the big misses for me. I hope to God one day I truly can. And coming at my number 3 is going to be Inception. Now, this is still one of my favorite films of all time, but just like my Tarantino ranking, Inception's still one of my favorite films of all time, but I do think, as I've done this rewatches, the other films above this, I think, are a little bit stronger than Inception in some of its stylized rewatches, and in general, its direction and how I feel about it. Now, all this stuff can change, but Inception's my number 3, and it's a masterpiece as well. One of the best crafted films of all time. Nolan has such an intriguing idea that brings about in such a complex, dynamic way, but one that doesn't feel, again, going against its audience. One that still feels understandingly enough, and it's one that consistently keeps going, and as it ramps up from the start, it continuously keeps going with this idea and building upon the foundations. Each and every one of the performances in here are great. DiCaprio kills it, Tom Hardy is great, Joseph Gordon-Levitt's great, Ellen Page is great, and nonetheless, Cillian Murphy, I think, is very underrated in here as well. I love the crime elements in here. I love heist films. Heist genres are one of my favorite films. It's one of my biggest guilty pleasures, but what Inception is able to do with the heist genre is absolutely incredible, and nonetheless one of the best films that has ever been crafted. Plus that hallway fight scene, oh my god, I still get goosebumps. I just got to see this in the theaters again. I was sitting there just on edge the whole entire time, and with Hans Zimmer's score all tied in there, it's just perfect, man. Coming in at my number 2, now I know what you guys are about to say. Yes, my review says that Tenet is Nolan's best film, and I still think this is his best crafted film. I think it's the way that everything is built upon. This is what has brought him to Tenet, which is such a unique film nonetheless, and one that is the most Christopher Nolan out of any Christopher Nolan film out there. And I think, again, Nolan fanboys like us, people who love Christopher Nolan films, I think a lot of us are going to absolutely fall in love with Tenet and maybe even be our favorites. And I think even to a general movie-going audience, this might be some of their favorites as well, especially talking to many friends who kind of fall into that category. I loved Tenet. I think Tenet is excellent. I've seen it twice now, and I can't wait to see it more times again, because I think this is a film that, as it continuously, this is a straight-up espionage, globe-trotting spy film that starts and goes and never lets up as it continuously goes with the whole inversion and time travel element that, again, starts and you're like, okay, this is interesting, I don't really know what's going on, but as it pays off towards the end of the film, you feel so satisfied in every single route and way. And I love how Nolan was able to craft that with adding new elements here and there to the whole concept in general. You are able to understand and come to an understanding of what's going on in this world, and that second rewatch just redefined how I felt about Tenet. The action set pieces are the strongest they've ever been inside a Christopher Nolan film. Some that will be absolutely jaw-dropping in the way that they either edited the film or actually shot these scenes. The practical effects are absolutely wonderful. The performances are great. And while this is not a straight-up character-driven film and some of the characters do feel a little bit shallow, I think on rewatches, I appreciate what they were doing more for this film. It's a total homage to many of the older James Bond films. And in general, I just love what Nolan decided to go forward with this film. Nolan decided to make a straight-up action spy film, and that is exactly what we got out of this film, and I adore it. And when he sets his mind to something just like, say, Dunkirk, Insomnia, or now Tenet, we understand what he is going for, and I love what he was able to craft in this film. I think everything he's built up upon through every single one of his films has built to him as a director to be able to craft this film in the excellent manners that it is. And I know a lot of people are very split on this film. Maybe over time, after I've seen it 5, 6, 7, or even more times than that, this film might fall down the line, or maybe even go up to my number 1. But let's get to my number 1. My number 1 is Interstellar. Now, I just rewatched this film for probably the 6th or 7th time last night. Another film that I actually sadly never got to see in the theaters, and I really wish I could have, because this rewatch bumped this film from like my number 5 up to my number 1. This Interstellar is a film that totally grows on me. I think it's bold. I think it's entertaining. I think it's intense. I think it's excellent in every single manner. And I think it's easily Nolan's most emotional film and a most emotionally driven film yet. The emotionality that he tried to throw into the Inception, which is strong nonetheless, I think are absolutely redefined in Interstellar, especially with that father and daughter relationship that we get between Matthew McConaughey and every single actress that plays his daughter throughout this film. It's a film that totally breaks me down with whether it's the scene scene of when they finally go to that planet and you learn about the whole time scenario and how, like, on this planet, if we spend minutes here, it could be years on Earth. And when they get stuck there and finally head back in and go about this whole thing, and he's watching the voice recordings and the video recordings of his kids all grown up, it breaks and devastates my heart. And especially the ending of this film is absolutely devastating as well. I bawl, I cry, goosebumps shiver down my spine. While I think Tenet might be the best score yet for a Nolan film, I think Interstellar features Hans Zimmer's best score yet. I fucking love Interstellar. One of the most visually pleasing films I've ever watched. It's one of the most exhilarating and intense and bold films I've ever watched, and one that, again, is so emotionally driven from this family aspect that you continuously cannot get your eyes off the screen. And the 2 hours and 44 minutes just completely fly by. Nolan crafts this film in such an epic style that maybe later down the road this could be looked at as his 2001 A Space Odyssey in such a different light. But I think this is one of the best films ever created. It's one of my personal favorite films of all time. A lot of Nolan films, in fact, are Tenet, Inception, and now Interstellar. All three films are my top 50 films of all time. I love Interstellar, and it is my favorite Nolan film yet. Thank you guys again so much for clicking on this ranking. You guys are seriously all the best. I hope you guys do enjoy this. Again, my ranking is going to be completely different than yours, but I'm so excited to read what your guys' Christopher Nolan ranking is. So make sure to leave a comment down below, hit that like and subscribe button, and of course, until next time, stay classy.